Get here right now! Get here! Hey, we got 30 minutes for the rest of our lives! 30 minutes for the rest of our lives!
Hello everyone and welcome back to the UKEndZone Football Daily Podcast. We are back on Hitcast. Thank you guys for getting this up early. We had to get the plug in early because they've done us a solid and got us up before any other show so we can get this show back on the road. And joining me today, I have to give no intro because we've introduced him enough. He's my friend, he's an editor, he's a writer, he's a college football guru. It's Josh Hunt. Josh, how's it going?
I'm pretty good. I'm not so sure about the guru thing given my final four picks, but I'll take it.
We'll get to it. Today we're going to solidify our final four picks. We're going to preview the college season. We're going to give conference champions. We're going to look at some quick news. And we're going to get excited because tonight, the 27th, we have some college football back. Division 1 college football. None of that red turf stuff they had on the other night where people got mildly excited. Real college football.
It's huge, and it's such a great opening weekend of fixtures. I know we're going to get into them a little bit later on, but yeah, cracking start, and so great to have it back. It's
unbelievable, and we were just talking, just before we came on, what I love about this year. We've got so many good games off the bat, which in previous years would have been terrific, but would have also been annoying, because say Oklahoma State lose this weekend, they'd be out of it then. It's like, good luck trying to get into a BCS bowl game, whereas now you can bounce back. And if you impress the committee, you're in the playoffs.
Absolutely. I think it's a great way of doing things. I still think there's going to be problems this year, but it's going to be a really exciting year. I'm thrilled they finally got the playoff. I said it last time, I can't wait till they expand it to 8 teams so it just goes on a little bit longer, and maybe a few of those teams who maybe have to impress a little bit too much after a couple of early losses, they can still sneak in, but it's amazing. It really is amazing, the fixture list this weekend. I can't wait for it.
Okay, let's start with the news, and let's start with Josh Shaw. We have to address this story, and we were texting earlier, it's like, should we do this? Because we don't know what the heck's going on. It's like early stage of Manti Te'o territory. Like, there's so much speculation, you don't know what's happened. The stories about his girlfriend. Is the heroic story true? What the heck is going on?
I don't know. I think that's the honest answer, and that's the answer that everybody should be giving, but I think this is probably looking worse than the Te'o situation at the moment. It's looking less and less likely like the stuff about his nephew was true. I think I'm almost willing to go out on a limb and just state that it is untrue. I don't want to get in any trouble, but
do it.
there's obviously something that's not right about that story. The story is not 100% accurate. I'll say that with confidence. As for the other stuff, though, we don't know. We don't know. There's reports of burglary. I think, was it Fox running with the possible domestic violence incident? Stories, perhaps, that the police have talked to his girlfriend. And then this bizarre statement from the LAPD last night, which was
the greatest.
Josh. Yeah, exactly. Josh Shaw, we have nothing on record about him, but that doesn't mean there wasn't something that happened.
That's the greatest statement I've ever heard. Nothing happened, we think, but maybe it did happen. We're not so sure.
It's more a damning indictment of the LAPD at the moment. I think that's the one thing we can take out of this, that we just cannot trust the LAPD. And I'm sure that's breaking news to everyone in America and everyone that's followed the LAPD over the years, but no, still can't trust them to know what they're doing.
That police department has work to do to get more incompetent and more foolish, and yet they seem to be finding a way to do it. The story is crazy. For those who aren't major college football fans trying to get into it and don't know the story, essentially a cornerback Josh Shaw, who I think has a pro future.
Yeah, definitely.
If
he keeps his nose clean anyway.
Yeah, I know. And he's a team captain at USC, and he's a big part of their secondary. A team that has zero depth due to sanctions, need all their big players to step up. And he came up with this story that he said himself that he leapt off the second floor balcony, if I'm correct. His nephew, 7 years old, at a family function, couldn't swim, was stuck in the pool, and so he leapt to his help, slipped on some board thing on the side of the pool, and high ankle sprained both ankles is the story. Then USC got a ton of phone calls saying this is inaccurate, it's not true. My question is, why on earth would you make this story up? Why didn't you just say I fell down the stairs? Who could go against that?
I have literally no idea. I mean, I genuinely don't understand the logic of this guy if this story isn't true. It seems pretty obvious to prove to be untrue if that is the case. I think you worried, didn't you, as well? When at that press conference, the media was there, he doesn't really show. The players, they haven't been tweeting any sort of congratulations, or I think there's only a couple of players who actually tweeted anything about it at all positive, so you're wondering, well, if this is really true, then surely you would expect some sort of reaction. He's a team captain, for God's sake. It's a very, very strange situation, and I worry for USC as well. Like you say, the defensive depth is very slim as it is. On a purely footballing perspective, it's going to set back their season quite a long way. From the more important perspective, I think it's too early to make any snap judgments, but I think this is going to get pretty ugly over the next few days.
And we're 2 days away from USC kicking off the football season, and Steve Sarkisian now is only dealing with media phone calls about Josh Shaw, dealing with the LAPD, dealing with the faculty who are vetting the situation. He can't even concentrate on his first game as the head coach of the Trojans.
Yeah, and I mean, USC is a tough job to have as it is at the best of times, and he doesn't need this sort of distraction. They open at home to Fresno State, probably should be able to battle through that.
They should be.
I don't know. It's an awful start to the year, and I don't know. I think that obviously the most important thing is if there's any suggestion of domestic violence, that is the big thing to focus on. Mm-hmm. If it's happened, then this is awful. We need to get it out of the way. If it hasn't, then we still need to focus on just proving that hasn't happened. Because obviously domestic violence is, it's horrendous. It's up there with the worst types of crime, and it needs to be got to the bottom of. I do feel for Steve Sarkisian, but I think it's the human story that is the most important bit about this.
I agree with you, and we'll get more information as it comes out, and then we'll follow up on the next couple of days of podcast. I agree with you on the domestic violence point. Isn't it funny how the NFL has videotape of domestic violence? They suspend a guy for 2 games. In college football, Oklahoma just banned its star recruit for a whole year because there was even an insinuation of domestic violence. That should be the other way, wouldn't you think? You
should think it would be, but, credit to the NCAA, at least in this respect, for getting that sorted out. I feel exactly the same way as you do, as indeed most fans do, about Roger Goodell and the discipline policy for domestic violence in the NFL. But hopefully at the next CBA, that's something that gets sorted out. It's just a shame it's probably going to take that long.
Okay, the other news item I wanted to bring up was just tip my hat to Blake Bell of Oklahoma. He lost the starting job to Trevor Knight because he just couldn't get it done as the quarterback. High expectations going into last year with the Belldozer package, and unlike what I hate about college football right now, the amount of guys who feel so entitled and they go into a program and they lose the starting quarterback job, and it doesn't happen at any other position, and they transfer immediately that day. We had a guy who tried out for the Miami job this year, lost it to a true freshman, and that was his 4th time he transferred to try and get a starter's job. If you're a backup, you are 1 play away from getting into the game. I never understand that philosophy, and Blake Bell committed himself and has now become the starting tight end of OU at this major school. From being the quarterback to now being the starting tight end, they're still going to run the Belldozer package in the red zone. I think this is a great story to show you that if you want to be a big school, you can just change positions, you can just commit yourself to the school and not worry about having to be the superstar starting quarterback.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen for everybody. We need to make that clear, or more to the point, I need to make that clear so nobody brings, Tebow to tight end feed to my timeline on Twitter. But, it might actually work out for him, and you're absolutely right. It doesn't take that much to go from a backup to a starter in college football, with the amount of injuries, with the amount of positions to fill, with the amount of different packages that teams will be willing to make for a talented player as well. Mm-hmm. And, 6'6", 260 pounds, he has the build for it. There's no reason he can't be a fairly solid tight end this year.
I've had this question for a while now. Urban Meyer used to do this at Florida all the time. He would just run 2 tight ends for the whole season. He didn't care. And this situation in college football where we feel we need a leader, to me, is ridiculous because the guy's usually there 1 or 2 years max. Everyone else is there 1 or 2 year max. Most people have individual motives that drive the team. Look at that Florida team. Nearly all of them got drafted in the NFL. I don't think they were a great team chemistry-wise. They were a great team because they had the most unreal talent that they paid for in the entire country. Why don't more teams go to the 2 quarterback sets? We're looking at all these notions coming out now. You look at Bama. We're trying to find a quarterback. In some of these spread option systems, like TCU have just said, we're going to play with 2 quarterbacks. They're both good in different situations.
Right, I think perhaps part of the problem is just coaches getting maybe slightly too fixated on the recruiting aspect of it as well, or even just unable to break from the history where it always has been traditionally a 1 quarterback league, even in college, not just the NFL. But obviously you want to develop that 1-star quarterback, and perhaps teams are overcommitting to doing that in order to attract more prospects to their program. I don't know if that's what it is to do with. I think, obviously, if you have a stud quarterback, makes sense. You may as well stick with the 1 quarterback system. If you've got a guy like Jameis Winston, you're not going to bring in a second quarterback to take anything away from him. you're probably not going to want to move Jameis out wide either to do something a little bit special when he can do so much special from a traditional formation. But yeah, for most programs, if you have a second quarterback that brings, even a very specific, very limited skill set to the table, I don't see why you can't do it. And I think you have seen teams have success with it, perhaps greater success than they should have done with the talent on their roster when they've moved to 2 quarterback sets.
Has there ever been a better quarterback depth chart than Leak, Tebow, and Newton? All on quarterback depth chart?
It's very hard to think of one if there has been.
It's insane, and they all ran their own package. That's why I love. You have the Tebow red zone package, you have the Newton goal line package, you have Leak doing everything else. I love that. That's how I'd run my team.
Yeah, well, I think you'd just run any team that way if you had Tebow on it, wouldn't you?
More than likely. Should we do some conference predictions?
Must we?
We must do. I want to start with the ACC, and we'll get the Atlantic out the way straight away, because it isn't even close. They're the best team in football right now, which closes the division. But can anyone of the other guys that are in that Atlantic, you look at Louisville with Petrino coming back, you look at Clemson, there's probably going to be a drop-off. Can anyone even compete to get into a bowl game, like a BCS bowl game?
Maybe. I know for certain nobody can compete with FSU.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, Clemson, I have them dropping off. Just checking, obviously, if people want to read about it, go search on the site for our ACC college preview so you can read a little bit more in depth after this.
Even
Got to
better,
get that plug out there.
Even better, Josh, you go to the top of the page, you click college football preview, I've put them all in one great stream for you. You can just spend an hour and go through every conference in a big stream and get through them all.
That's terrific news, Ollie. Can't thank you enough. Now, I think the only other team that really stands out to me is probably Duke. I think they've been slightly underrated, having had such a good year last year. It's difficult to see anyone... obviously a team is probably going to make one of the smaller bowl games, but I don't know. I think it's FSU and then the rest in the ACC this year. I quite like Pitt. I think they're a better side. I don't think they're quite ready to compete in the bigger bowl games, though.
I agree with you, Duke. I've got them as the coastal winners, as you have. I just love David Cutcliffe. They've got a raft of injuries in the last, 4 days, which is just a killer, so tough to reevaluate what they're going to look like. I just believe in that coaching staff, the job they've done to at least compete. I kind of like North Carolina. They look like they're going to do something this year, but the team that I'm really down on, and they're fortunate that they're in a conference where I only put them 5th in their own division, is Miami.
Sure.
The aura of Miami shot. They just got a true freshman and said, yeah, he can start quarterback for Miami.
Yeah, Brad Kaya is the true freshman who's starting against
He
Louisville.
beat out a 5th-year senior.
Yeah. Maybe he's something really special. If he is, maybe you can't rule Miami out. I was quite down on them as well. It's taken me by surprise. You mentioned North Carolina. And obviously, there's some more off-field news coming out today.
Of course there is. It's North Carolina.
Yeah, of course there is. This one concerns me a bit more. Obviously, the hazing incidents, I know they're going to go on in every program, but you don't want people finding out about them, basically. I don't think they should go on. I'm not condoning them in any way. I'm just willing to accept, for North Carolina fans' sake, that, a lot of teams are probably doing this sort of stuff. But yeah, the news out today, a redshirt freshman wide receiver called Jackson Boyer was concussed during a hazing incident, which turned into an assault. I don't trust that North Carolina have the talent to manage the off-field stuff as well. I don't think they're so good that they can just handle that and carry on beating teams.
By the way, that North Carolina, that school is so out of control. If you're looking for the word lack of institutional control, it's obscene. The way Roy Williams has run that basketball program where no one goes to class, and they found documents of 10 years of it, and the NCAA's done nothing because it's North Carolina. Someone's got to grab that institution and do something to it.
It's a total mess. I don't see them having any sort of success this year. I think Larry Fedora may be on his way out at the end of the season as well.
Let's move to the Big 12 then. It took me some time to really evaluate this division. I went back and forth, this conference even, went back and forth non-stop between the Baylor-OU thing. I tipped slightly towards OU. You went with Baylor.
I went with Baylor. I really like Bryce Petty as a college QB. Not quite sold on him as an NFL prospect this year. Want to see him zip some more throws, get some more velocity on it, but I think Baylor have enough. I worry about the defense, as everybody probably does, but I prefer them to OU. I think Trevor Knight, he was great, obviously, in the bowl game last year. He's an unproven prospect, though, and I'm going to take the proven commodity over the unproven commodity in Trevor Knight. You mentioned they're returning a lot of starters, but then we've had the Dorial Green Beckham thing come out recently. He's not going to get his waiver. Sure, you've got stuff to say about that. They've had a little bit of controversy with their 5-star recruit running back, Joe Mixon. He's been suspended for the year for assaulting a woman. I'm not so certain that they're quite as good as everybody's saying. I don't think they're the 4th best team in the country as they're being rated at the moment. And I just flat out prefer Baylor to get it together.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a deeper squad. I think they have a better coach. I just think that offense is too good. I don't think OU are going to be able to score as much points against Baylor as Baylor can against OU. I think Baylor are I just think they're a flat out better side.
I like Baylor, that I love the head coach, and I can't believe someone hasn't just offered all the money in the world to come to the NFL. Washington had a vacancy, and they had RG3, and he has all the money in the world, Mr. Schneider. They should have thrown all the money at him. That is one of, if not the best, quarterback-coach combinations in the entire country, and I love that. The reason I just tipped Oklahoma is that they play him at home, and they got a 57-4 record in the past decade, so you're leading that favor. They return basically the entire O-line. So even if Trevor Knight isn't at his best, he's going to have time to improve, and they've got a stupid record, a stupid schedule. It's obscene. They're playing no one. They play in an awful conference. The only time they face anyone is when they face Baylor at home.
Yeah, and like you said as well in the article, you mentioned not playing a title game is probably going to work in their favour. I think my problem is I couldn't get over the fact that they got beaten pretty soundly by Baylor last year. Mm-hmm. Knight is probably a better quarterback, even if you don't completely buy into him. I don't think they're so much better than last year, though, that they can overturn the deficit against Baylor. And I think they will lose that one match to Baylor, but I think it'll be enough.
We both like K-State at 3, and then we get to the major school, and we discussed them before, the Longhorns. I was surprised you actually had them at 4. I thought I was being maybe a bit out there to pump them up so high with everything that's gone off with them, suspending seemingly everyone in the program, with them not being able to find anyone to play quarterback. How come you've got them at 4?
I just believe in the coach. Like you say, they've had a difficult off-season, but I think part of the reason is I believe in the coach, and it's also that there's so many question marks about the teams below them. I was tempted to move Texas Tech up into 4, which would have been a bold shout. But I like what Cliff Kingsbury's doing over there. I had them at 5. I just think Texas have enough. They have just about enough talent. They have a very good coach who succeeded at Louisville, who has all sorts of, nonsense with the Longhorns network to deal with now. He is at Texas, but there's enough there. Quandre Diggs, you've got mentioned as one of your key returners. Their schedule, the schedule's tougher than someone like Oklahoma's, but I still think there's a few wins there. I think 8 wins, again, is realistic. Should see them slot into 4.
What's great for them is that they're a team that's going to run the ball non-stop this year, and they've faced some of the worst run defenses in the entire country. TCU, Texas Tech, North Texas, BYU, none of them can stop the run. So those games that you'd hope would be gimme games for Texas, but we know in this day and age it's going to be maybe a toss-up for this incarnation of Texas. They should win all those games just simply because they've got great running backs and a great rotation, and none of the other teams can stop the run.
Sure, you got Brown and you got Gray at running back, and I like that they start so easy as well. They got North Texas and BYU up first 2 games. Might be enough to get the team together before they start facing the tougher challenges. I'm going to be really interested to watch the 3rd game against UCLA, who I think are being slightly overrated this year. I think that'll be a major test. I don't think they'll win it, but I think they could come closer to UCLA than most people would expect.
I would like that to be in Texas rather than neutral site. That would be really interesting. You imagine everyone's, this national team from glamorous UCLA are now trying to play hard-nosed football coming to Texas. Who do they think they are? That'd have been really fun.
It would have been, but I still think Texas are going to push them close in that game.
Okay, let's go to the Big Ten. Very interesting conference. Ton of storylines. Is it any good anymore? I doubt it. You look at what was the cream of the crop in Ohio State, they lose Braxton. Well, then you look at this quarterback, JT Barrett, he completes a higher percentage of throws, apparently. We haven't even seen him play, so I don't know how they're saying that. He's a more accurate passer. We know that Braxton was a running back masquerading as a quarterback, in my opinion anyway. And we know that Urban is the quarterback whisperer and can turn Tebow into a first-round pick, Alex Smith a number 1 overall pick. He can do these things with these guys, and their offense is so much more talented than everyone else's. Even if they get into blowout games, they should win a ton of games.
They should. I'm not so sure they will. We disagree on this one, I know. I think OSU are going to struggle a little bit more this year. Mm-hmm. I'm not I'm not so convinced. Yeah, JT Barrett completes a higher percentage of passes, but he's no Braxton Miller. Braxton Miller is a top-tier college quarterback, and it's really difficult to recover from losing him. Their schedule is weak. Obviously, it's an OSU schedule. Of course, it's going to be weak. I had them slipping down to third. I think that might have been a bit harsh in hindsight. I was backing Penn State's depth to hold up, but obviously that's a huge risk. They'll win games, but I've got Michigan State beating them in the East.
I have Michigan State as well because they're just a better team all around, more solid. And what I love about Michigan State is when you look at their entire squad, they have no guy who's a 5-star recruit, not even 4-star recruits. None of them really go on to the NFL. Only Denard came out, was their only draft pick, and he went in the first round. It's a team that's just built for college football and built to succeed, and so you know they're going to play well because this is it for them. Whereas you've got a lot of, again, individuals, entitlement in a school like OSU, whereas Michigan State, this is it for them. It's why they play so hard.
Right, exactly. I like Urban Meyer. He's a good coach, but he's lost the jewel in his crown this year. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's as good. I think Urban Meyer's success comes from recruiting. I think that would be difficult to argue. I think he's a very good coach outside of that, but there's just too much gone on. Mm-hmm. I think, you take all the other stuff that you've just mentioned, but to me, it just comes down to Braxton. Mm-hmm. And with Braxton, maybe they win that division. Without him, I don't think they've got a chance.
I'm going to hold you to that, because this guy's a genius of a college coach, maybe even just football coach. So I'm going to hold you to that.
I think he's very good, not great.
Come on now. He's a great recruiter. That's half of college football. He's got a ton of national championships. Come on now.
We'll see. We'll see what he does. If he can lead this team to within a win of Michigan State, I'll tell you about that statement.
Okay, then they've got a really, their schedule is pathetic because it's an OSU schedule, like you said, but the away games are really tough. At Navy is not going to be easy by any stretch. Maryland have a ridiculous offense. Penn State, you love them to be the second team. Then they go to Michigan State. Should roll over the Gophers at Minnesota, but the away games aren't easy for them.
They really aren't. You mentioned Navy before we started podcasting. We were talking before this. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you'd read Navy as a possible top 25 team. Someone's been writing about that. So, maybe it is a little bit tougher than I've had it down for. I don't know. I have them losing to Penn State at the moment. I think this is my big thing. That away game to Penn State is tougher than it looks on paper. The problem, obviously, and what might see them go through is that's coming mid-season when the injury bug might have struck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the great Ivan Mazel's been writing about them again. You can read him on ESPN.com, but we shouldn't plug him. He's big enough. He's like the biggest college football writer. I don't think he needs our plug. But he thinks they're going to be a top 25, 20 team. Everybody's a senior or junior. We know experience rewards in college football, and people still can't defend the triple option. It's been how many years in college football? People can't figure out how to defend it, and if you get a young team like OSU, they may struggle against that. It's an underdog warning sign, week 1 for OSU. Let's talk about the Penn State thing then. Cool. Is this solely based in the fact that, and I believe he will be a number 1 overall pick, and I love everything about him, and I love James Franklin. Are you just buying Hackenberg and Franklin?
It's the biggest part of it. I don't think you can deny that he's the biggest part of it. They've got a new defensive coordinator as well. They have good starting talent across the board. I think this is the thing. Maybe I worry about Hackenberg's protection. I worry about his development with a new coach, but yeah, I'm always going to buy into the I focus on the pro side of things more often than I do the college, but I'm always going to buy into the great coach, great quarterback combination. So yeah, for the most part, this is the Hackenberg and Franklin thing. They got a good pass rusher there in Dion Barnes, if he can work to his full potential. He had a really bad year last year. But they're not bad. It's just the depth. I think they're a much more solid team starting than most people give them credit for, because most people can't get over the lack of, academic, whatever they're called.
Sanctions?
Yeah, whatever. I know what I'm trying to say. I worry as well at wide receiver. I think this is the problem, but I do think Hackenberg is good enough to make up for the lack of receivers this year.
No, I agree with you. He's sensational. He should be good enough to overcome that. He's a guy who's going to make plays around him better. Thing I wanted to ask you about Penn State. I love James Franklin. I think he's a good recruiter. He recruited well enough at Vanderbilt, which is incredibly difficult given the academic stuff you have to pass to even be considered for Vanderbilt. Is it possible to still recruit at Penn State? Everyone assumes that they're going to come back at some point, and they got Hackenberg, but Hackenberg was already on the roster before, everything went down. whenever I think of Penn State, and if I'm a young guy and I get recruited by Penn State, the first thing you think of is all the negativity. Is there any way you can properly recruit at Penn State anymore?
I think probably is the honest truth. I think it's this.
What's the first thing you think
like
of?
what you see in the NFL. In the NFL, you see talent trumps character. In college, you're going to see ability to get me into the NFL is going to trump, the horrendous off the field scandals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can escape them. I agree with you. When you think Penn State, you're thinking the scandal. That's all you can think of. You're thinking, horrendous stories of child abuse, top level cover-ups.
The scandal is now bigger than the school as well. Penn State means scandal. It doesn't even mean school.
It is, but you're going to see when Hackenberg is being suggested as the number 1 overall pick, be that in a year or 2 years' time, I think that's going to help an awful lot of prospects who just want to make their way into the pro ranks. I think that's going to help an awful lot of people start to forget about it, or at least be willing to try and forget about it for the sake of their career. And like you say, James Franklin is a great recruiter. I think it's going to be difficult. It's always going to be difficult. It's going to be an awful long time until they escape the stench of this scandal. But yeah, if you had to give me a yes or no answer, I'm going to say yeah, they can continue to recruit. If
you're a top recruit, are you considering Penn State when you have all the other offers?
Maybe if you're not a top recruit, but you're still going to get an awful lot of 4-star guys.
Okay. Elsewhere in this place, I look at Brady Hoke at Michigan. I really think he's toast. I expect them to do nothing this year. Don't trust him to. He recruits unbelievably well on the lines, which you think would be brilliant for college football, as it so often is like Stanford. But their skill position players are so far behind the rest of the team. They just can't do anything. And he won the bowl game in his first year. Everyone got all excited. All the media personalities loved his personality. But now he has to prove he can win on his own. He hasn't done it. I don't know if he can do it, Devin Gardner.
Again, and you look at the away games this year, they're going to be really, really tough for Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
You got at Notre Dame. Notre Dame probably overrated, but I still think they're better than Michigan. I think they win that derby this time around. You got Rutgers, they should wipe that, but then Michigan, Northwestern can be a challenge. Ohio State away. You've got a few losses just on the away schedule, and like you say, he's won with other people's players. I don't know. I'm with you. We said this in the first podcast we ever did of these daily podcasts. I think he's gone at the end of the season. And
everyone's pointing to Doug Nussmeier like he's going to be some sort of hallowed saint that's going to come and completely radicalize and change Michigan football. If he's that good, why don't they just make him the head coach? If this guy's going to completely change stuff, then give him all the autonomy and power he wants.
Even if they're sticking with Brady Hoke, then why hasn't somebody else made him their head coach? If he is that good, he can convince somebody that he's worth that job.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't buy into it either.
Okay, let's go to the Pac-12. This preview should be out or will be out around the same time on the website, UKEndZone.com, as we do this one. And we'll spoil for people. We have the identical division in the North. It's the first one I think we have that's identical.
Yeah, I've not actually edited this piece yet, so I haven't seen your predictions. Let's have a check of this. It's an interesting division, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's always an interesting division when you have... man, you've blocked it, mate. You're gonna have to get that fixed. I can still preview it, so let's have a look over.
We got Oregon, Stanford. We got Chris Peterson, my boy, at Washington. I kind of like Oregon State this year. Then there's a big drop-off, in my opinion. But the thing for me this year to discuss in this division is not Oregon nationally. I think they're going to be there nationally. They may and probably will, if they beat UCLA, run the table. For me, it's Stanford at 11. I like them, but they've lost a ton of talent. I don't know if you can keep overcoming losing first-round picks in the NFL draft at guard and at tackle. And their schedule is so rough, I can't even see them get into that 11-win total that they've just been able to plug in as, we get 11 wins and we'll roll from there.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking over the Stanford schedule. It's difficult. It really, really is difficult to see them getting to 11 wins. Away games to Notre Dame, to Arizona State, to Oregon, to UCLA, final fixture of the year. And then, even some of the challenging fixtures at home, you're facing a couple of physical sides. I don't see them competing with Oregon this year. They could surprise us. They often do. Oregon have yet to prove that they can outmatch them for physicality, so... they could always spring a surprise, but I think this is Mark Helfrich's year.
I agree with you. Oregon's the one. I know that all the other teams on paper aren't as good as Oregon, but just because of that physicality and the fact they've had the hoodoo over them for the past couple of years, that is the game I could point to and see them winning. But even against UCLA, they might actually get out-muscled by UCLA side, and that sounds scary to say. Plus, you look at leaders that have left this team. You look at Scov, Murphy, and Reynolds. They lost their whole middle of the field. It just evaporated in 1 year. And these teams usually replenish them time and time again, but to constantly get to 11 wins is really tough to just keep replenishing. And they don't recruit junior college guys, so it's not veteran players coming in. I really struggle to see them getting past 10 wins.
No, I think this year Stanford take a step back. Next year, I'm sure they'll roar back. They'll have the new recruits bedded in for another year. There'll be another year better. I think 2015, fine. 2014, 10 wins probably, maybe could surprise people by slipping into single figures.
Okay, let's go to the South then. We have practically the same. We flip ASU and Arizona, but let's talk about the two teams that people want us to talk about. We got USC and UCLA. I am not buying into the UCLA hype, and I think it's the hype that will actually kill them.
This is the worry. You always worry about a team like UCLA that hasn't been a top 10 side for a little while. They're being ranked as 7th, I think, at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's difficult for me as well to buy into the quarterback there. He's let me down time and time again since I first saw him. We were blown away. That game against USC where he outduels Matt Barkley. I've got them first in the division, but I think that says more about the struggles of USC than it does about the strength of UCLA.
I agree with you. They got a ton of guys returning, and in fact, I feel bad for a lot of their side because Miles Jack, he's a two-way player, and Brett Hundley, because he's the superstar quarterback, get all the attention. Most of their best players are on their front lines, which bodes well to not get carried away if those guys don't buy into it. We just haven't seen Jim Moore in this position before, and he's done a sensational job to rebuild UCLA, build it in a new image, not be glamorous along with the basketball team, become a genuine hard-nosed, tough team. But they just lost two sensational players in Suafilo and Anthony Barr, and replacing that production at big times, Barr came up with some major plays, it's going to be really tough for them to do.
It is going to be really tough, but you do mention that physicality. You mentioned it just a minute ago that they could possibly beat, a team like Oregon or a team like Stanford for physicality. So, there is hope there. I think it is just a case of I'm slightly spooked by the fact that they haven't been there for a while, and I think Brett Hundley is a little bit too inconsistent, and until he proves through the first few games of the season that he can be that consistent guy who will go drive after drive after drive, just picking up points, making the smart decisions, until I've seen that, I can't really believe in them as a playoff contender.
If they trend upwards on the same arc they have done, they don't buy into the hype, and really all Moore has to do is put up a poster of the year USC were number 1 and they fell apart completely, and say, this is why we don't buy into being anywhere in the polls pre-season. It means nothing. Could they sneak in as dark horses? I think they're a dark horse contender if they don't buy in.
The talent's there. It's just a case of having to prove it. I can't buy into them just yet. The talent certainly is there. The answer to your question, yes, they can. They can sneak into it. There's question marks over who's going to win that 14 in the playoffs, certainly. So yeah, the potential's there. Jim Mora has done a great job, as you say, but I'm not quite ready to crown them yet.
Okay, let's look at USC. We mentioned them before. This team is sensational, I'd say, through 28 players. Maybe the best team in the country through 28 players, minus the quarterback. If you believe in Cody Kessler, most don't. I don't. I thought they had that insane redshirt freshman that everyone was super excited for. Did he fall off the map?
I've not heard anything about him since, so yeah, we're going to have to roll with Kessler.
And I don't trust Kessler, but the rest of the talent is unbelievable. You look at Aguilar, I think that's the best 1-2 punch of running backs in the nation until we see what we've got in Leonard Fournette. They may have the number 1 overall pick in the draft in Leonard Williams. Through 28 players, this is possibly the best team in the country, but they only have 60 scholarship athletes, and 2 of them just got injured. That is unbelievable. And people who are like, well, you only play 22, why do you need that many players? You talk about practice. They have to go up against someone in practice and some competition. They don't get to have preseason games. They need to play against someone, and I just don't think they have the depth to get it done. If they suffer one injury on that line, on either line, they're basically toast.
They are, and I mean, they've already suffered an injury at a thin position with Josh Shaw's situation that we talked about earlier, so they're already struggling a little bit. Leonard Williams is possibly the best player in college. Jimmy's probably slightly, but I'm not going to argue with anybody that says Leonard Williams is the best player. Mm-hmm. My defensive player of the year in this conference, there wasn't any debate about it as far as I was concerned.
He's further along in his progression now than Clowney was last year. He's better at the point of attack. He's one of the only guys in college who knows that you have to counter move, and when you get to the next level, he won't have to learn it. He has to be the runaway number 1 favorite right now because we don't know if any of the quarterbacks that are coming out Williams is coming out. It's not even close.
And he's potentially so versatile as well. I think he can carry a bit of extra bulk if somebody wants to turn him into a 3-tech. He makes for a perfect 5-tech at the next level as well. He's tremendous. He's so tremendous, and he carries that weight so well. He's explosive. He's powerful. He's got a great range of moves at his disposal as well, which is so rare to see at this level. And he was playing through injury last year, supposedly. So
they all are, apparently.
Yeah, that is true. But I mean, the cliche is the sky's the limit, but it really is for this guy. He is so good. But as for the USC situation, they've got this off-field stuff. They've got Stanford second week. You know, I can't see them winning that division this year.
Do you buy into Sark?
Yeah, I think he's a good coach. I still think they should have had Chris Peterson, though.
I agree with you. He did a great job in Washington. I was looking at it today as I was evaluating their previous seasons. They were like 0-12 3 years ago. And Sark really has built that into an organization where they're like, let's go and get Chris Peterson because for some reason SC doesn't want him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do buy into Sark. I just don't think he has the depth this year to succeed.
I do want to move on, but I do want to talk about Chris Peterson, so it's like it's a toss-up for me, because my head says move on for the pod, but my heart says let's talk about Chris for a minute. We praise him all the time. They went 9-4 last year. You've listed them as an overrated team. It's probably got nothing to do with him, because I think he's a top 5 coach in all of college. That schedule is not great. They go up the road to Cal, which isn't too tough. They go up the road to Oregon. They got a nasty stretch of games where they only get 2 winnable ones. Is that the reason why? They lost a ton of talent as well?
That's the only reason why. It's just talent and schedule. It has nothing to do with Chris Peterson, who is going to get one of the biggest jobs in college football or in the NFL in the next few years. I mean, he's a tremendous coach, but I mean, so much of their play last year ran through Bishop Sankey. He's gone. ASJ's gone. They've lost their quarterback. They've lost, a little bit of defensive talent as well. I think, were they in the South, I'd have them as an outside bet to challenge UCLA. In the North, I don't think they're ready to challenge Oregon or Stanford. And they're only overrated because people were saying that sort of stuff. It's not that they're a bad side. I like Washington. I like Washington football. I don't really support anyone in college football, but I like watching them. I like watching the Huskies.
You should just support Chris Peterson and follow him wherever it takes him.
It's a recipe for success, but this isn't the year for them. Okay,
let's look at the SEC, the biggest and baddest conference in all of college football. Why is this debate that people are having between the Pac-12 and the SEC? It's become incredible. Surely to be the best conference, a team has to win a national title.
Yeah, I think so. I don't see it. No, it's just nonsense. It is just nonsense. I mean, we've mentioned perhaps that the SEC is there isn't quite the powerhouse there this year as there has been in years past.
It's difficult to go 12 years straight, Josh.
Yeah, exactly. This is the point. It's still by far the best conference in college, and it's so much deeper than any of the other conferences.
Let's start with the East, because I think you're going to pull a great one out the bag here. You love my University of Florida for some reason. I watched Will's press conference yesterday, and I still wanted to pull a gun to my head. There's Missouri in there. People love them. There's Georgia, who I really like, and then there's South Carolina, who people are jumping on that bandwagon this year. Tell me you're picking Florida. That'd be great.
I am. I'm still picking Florida to win the East. I don't believe it when I write it myself. My final line on my underrated team, I'll give you a little sneak preview of our SEC preview. Even Will Muschamp can't stop this side competing.
Yes, he can.
I just don't think he can. I think there's so much to like about them. I've written a whole card of cute, little things that I like about them. Dante Fowler, I think, is going to be terrific. Vernon Hargreaves is one of the best DBs in the nation, and he's already, he's only been playing for a year. You got Kelvin Taylor, all SEC selection as a freshman at running back. DeMarcus Robinson's played really well through spring, so you might have some wide receiver help. You've got Quinton Dunbar, racked up 500 yards. Ahmed Fullwood looks like a decent sophomore receiver as well. You've got talent on the offensive line. Both tackle spots look pretty secure. And I don't know. I think Jeff Driscoll's going to play well in a spread offense. They've got Kurt Roper, who did a nice job as an OC at Duke. I don't know. I know this is going to burn me at the end of the season. I know I'm going to look completely ridiculous when they're crawling in 4th place and somehow Mizzou have overtaken them or something like that. But I'm going with it. I said it on the first podcast. I'm sticking with it until it's just proven that it can't happen. I know I'm going to look a fool in reality, but I'm still going with it. I'm saying Florida are going to win the East.
And Will really can't screw this up. I mean, he's always had a great defense. It's just what he knows how to do. Offensively, it scares me that they say they're going to go no huddle, but it's still going to have pro-style conceptions, or concepts, I should say. How does that work? I've never seen anyone go no huddle and then get into an I formation.
I don't know how it works. I just know it can't be that much worse than last year. So I have to have some confidence. I'm not even a Florida fan. I know I'm going to get people flooding my Twitter saying you're a Florida homer. I'm not. I don't really like the Gators. You are. I'm not. I think that's why I can buy into them a little bit more, because I've not had to deal with the upsets of the last few years. Yeah,
it's been rough. And I mean, Jeff Driscoll, he's got everything that you kind of like in him, that he could lead a team to the playoffs if he doesn't make mistakes. He just makes far too many mistakes. And
he's my type of prospect. I buy into him because he's got a nice arm and there's a high upside there. Much like Brett Hundley, though, yeah, you probably can't trust him to stop making those mistakes, but maybe operating in a spread or a no-huddle is going to help him cut down on that.
I reserve judgment. By the way, I think Vernon Hargreaves will play both ways this year, which will be really excited. People are talking about that a lot. I'm excited to see that. Who is the second team, though?
In the East.
In the East.
In the East, I've got South Carolina. Mm-hmm. I think their offense all round is slightly better than that of Georgia's. I do worry about the defensive line, though. That's been shredded this year. I think there's a lot of questions in the East. This is the problem. I found it really tough to separate South Carolina and Georgia. I mean, it comes down to me whether you can trust Todd Gurley to do it for Georgia and stay healthy. Mm-hmm. And that's my big concern. People are going to be keying on him so much, and Gurley's had a few injuries in the past. And I think if they lose him this year, it's going to be really hard for them to win any games.
I agree. I don't think people are estimating quite enough just how much Georgia are going to miss their quarterback. It's going to be.
Aaron Murray, he gets underrated, but I mean, he was a good college quarterback.
He did. He got underrated, I think, because he tore his ACL and he couldn't take part in things leading up to the draft. Would have shown him off, I think, a bit more, much better. I mean, they're going to hand the ball off to him 1,000 times a game. Like I said, people are just going to key off on him. The box is going to be stacked. I don't know how he's going to get any yards, and then he's got injury concerns as well. I do worry about Georgia. Let's look at the West then. We got Auburn, who I genuinely think they're going to regress. There's this thing today, Nick Marshall. If Nick Marshall is suspended for half a game, sit him for the whole game. I don't even care. If he's suspended for half a game, sit him for the whole game. I don't like that coaching style.
I mean, you really may as well. I mean, you look at the schedule anyway, they should be okay for the first game, so I don't think it hurts them all that much. But, I still have Auburn winning. So, there's that.
Explain to me why. They lost a ton of talent.
They did lose a ton of talent. I just buy Nick Marshall, and I think...
You buy Nick Marshall?
I buy Nick Marshall to win in the SEC this year. I think he was good last year. I think he can take a step forward, complete a few more passes this year. And the biggest problem for me, and again, you should never bet against Nick Saban. You should never bet against Alabama, but sod it, I'm doing it anyway. I think there's a huge amount of potential in that Alabama team, but it's difficult for me to see it clicking quite quickly enough, no matter what the coaching is like, no matter what the history of Alabama is like. I think it's tough for me to see Alabama winning that division this year, and then the best of the rest is Auburn.
The West is really funny because there's a ton of big names and new names, and they really aren't talented teams. Alabama's loaded. They need to figure out the quarterback situation. I'd roll with Sims. If he has the toast of the locker room, why upset that for a guy who's just going to hand the ball off and get the ball 4 yards down the field? I'd roll with Sims first week, and if he doesn't work out, you go to Coker. No harm, no foul. LSU aren't a good team because they don't have a quarterback themselves. Texas A&M are going to drop off the table. Don't like State, Arkansas are all over the place. I do like Ole Miss.
Yeah,
now, we've discussed this a lot. They clearly have done something in recruiting. We don't know what. It could be anything. I don't want to make accusations of money. It could just be that they have this mind-blowing presentation or take the Oklahoma State route of bringing prostitutes. We don't know what it is. We don't want to make allegations.
Yeah, but Ole Miss's totally legit recruiting scheme has been amazing.
They've done something. They went from being like the 100th team in the nation recruiting to 5th overnight, and then they went 5th again, and now they're like 2nd again. So they're doing something right.
Yeah, but ignoring all that, look who they actually did recruit. Like Robert and Kendiche, I think he's going to blow up this year. I think he's going to be great. Like Quan Treadwell, oh my god, he's outstanding. I mean, yeah, Amari Cooper's probably the better receiver, but there's not going to be that much difference this time round, I don't think. If Bo Wallace stays healthy at quarterback, I think this is a decent side.
Bo Wallace at quarterback is the funnest thing to watch in college football. He runs all over the place. He has the hair. He's like Ben Roethlisberger without any of the Ben Roethlisberger know-how. It's fun to watch. He has Treadwell wide open, and yet he takes off and gets blown up. It's really fun to watch.
a bit of a mess, but
he's a maverick, I think is the expression to use.
A maverick, yeah, we'll go with maverick. That sounds more complimentary, but I think they're a decent side. I think it's hard to deny that they are actually a decent side. I think they could surprise a few people this year. I've got them in third. I think they could be closer to second than most people expect, especially if you're right about Auburn. If you're right and Auburn regress, yeah, maybe there's a second place finish. It's tough to say. I think they're a good team, though. I think a couple of years' time, if Ole Miss carry on recruiting the way they are in this perfectly legitimate fashion, I think they're going to be a really decent program.
I watched the Auburn A game, which is their spring game, and I only watched the highlights. I didn't watch the full thing, but it made Nick Marshall look like Joe Montana in his prime, the way he was slinging the ball over the place. More like Dan Marino, the way he was just stepping back and slinging it. And they've compared him to Cam Newton, which I think is a sin. You should never do that to someone before the start of the year. Can he really improve that much as a passer? I really think sometimes people just have it or don't have it.
No, he can't be that good. I mean, he can be better, but I think he can... Basically, what I'm saying is I think he can be good enough. I don't think he can be anywhere near Cam Newton. Cam Newton was a very rare college football player. He was outstanding. Nick Marshall, he's not Cam Newton. Even without the pressure of having to live up to it, he's not going to be quite that good. I just see them as a slightly better team than Alabama. I think the quarterback situation is worrying. TJ Yeldon burned me last year, obviously. I don't know if they have quite enough on offense to beat the best teams, at least over the first few games.
Okay, let's lock in. That's our conference predictions. Now let's lock in your final four.
Right. So we may as well get Florida out of the way.
Love it.
You know what? Why not? I'm going to look a genius if it comes off. I already look an idiot, so I can't lose anything if it doesn't. I'm taking Auburn as my West Division champions. Have Oregon sweeping the board. Best of the rest, may as well go Baylor.
You're going to go with Baylor. I've really struggled with this now for some time to lock in a Final Four. I'm going to take Bama. I think they win the SEC title. I don't think the committee allows in a second SEC team for the first year simply due to the fact that they want to reward conference champions. I'm going to take Oregon.
Okay.
And now I'm stuck. This is where I get real antsy.
Oh, man. Sorry, yeah, of course. I've missed out FSU here, haven't I?
You've missed out FSU. Oh, FSU don't make the playoffs.
I've got to cut a team. Okay, right. We'll take Auburn to beat Florida for the SEC. And then we'll take FSU. How did I miss out FSU?
Have you left Florida out of the college football playoff?
I just have, I'm afraid.
You are the biggest backtracker.
I'm not a big backer. I still have them reaching the SEC title game. That's still bold enough for me. I'm
going to take Florida State. So I've got Florida State, Oregon, and Alabama. So I'm pretty boring right now. And then you got to look at the other two conferences. And if the Big 12 doesn't run the table, they ain't going to get in because they don't have a conference title game.
Nah.
So you're looking at the Big 10, and it scares me to death that I've got to pick a team from the Big 10 to go there. So I'm going to go with Michigan State. I love the attitude of the program. I love that they're going to shove it down Brady Hoke's big mouth when he gets fired from Michigan, and he doesn't call them Michigan State. He abuses Ohio State. He abuses Michigan State. I'm going to roll with Michigan State to show up the state of Michigan and get to a college football playoff that they deserve to be in.
Maybe. I don't see it myself. But then again, I have Florida going to the SEC title game, so what do I know? If
two teams will make the SEC title game, do you think they'll bring two this year? I think that they would get absolutely crucified in the press if they put in two SEC teams.
They might, but you just worry if they're going to have a choice because the SEC schedule is so much tougher. So if they have two SEC teams, I'll take Auburn, Florida, Oregon, and FSU. If they don't, and if you're right, it may be that the media just gets to them that they can't afford to. I think perhaps by season's end they probably should. If we're just taking the four best teams in college, I think they probably should. Otherwise, yeah, we'll go Auburn, FSU, Oregon, and Baylor.
Okay, I just want to do one last thing before we get to this weekend's games. The best of the rest. We haven't done this yet, so I feel bad we've only talked about Power 5s since we've done this podcast, since we've done the previews. So who is the best of the rest? Everyone's looking at Marshall because if you've seen their record, it's like they're playing an FCS record, and they're obviously going to go 12-0. Rakeem Cato, if he was in a Power 5 school, then he would be the biggest thing. He'd probably be in contention for the Heisman Trophy. Are they the best, or because of that schedule, is Cincinnati, who play two Power 5 schools on the road, including Ohio State, who they may upset, is Cincinnati the team that would maybe grab that bowl berth?
No, I think it's Marshall. I mean, I'm going with this. I think Marshall sweep the table. They're not going to get a bowl berth, but certainly not going to get a playoff bowl berth, but, I think Marshall are good. I don't think Rakeem Cato works as a pro prospect. I think that's pretty obvious. But he's a real talent. Outside the Power 5, he's arguably the best player in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking as well to see you got North Dakota State playing on Saturday. They've been so great in the FCS for a while. So, I think I'll go with Marshall as my best outside the Power 5.
Okay, then we'll finish with 2 games that you're looking forward to over this weekend slate of games. Like you said at the top of the show, it's really an incredible slate to kick off with. It's not usually this good. So if you're not into college football, get in now, because it's going to be a really fun year with the chase to the playoffs. Your 2 games that you're looking for?
Has to be Wisconsin LSU. We were talking about this one before. We're going to find an awful lot out about Wisconsin. I don't think LSU are going to be able to beat them. But yeah, I think that's probably the pick of the games, just all round. And then it's hard to argue with the Clemson-Georgia fixture.
Mm-hmm.
I think Clemson are going to regress, but you always look out for that fixture every year. That's probably my second game on this schedule.
Well, I also have LSU and Wisconsin. I'm just really excited to see Leonard Fournette. People know this now. It's a major man crush. I bought into the fact it's a man crush. We got highlights up on UKEndZone.com. We put some of his film together from his high school days. Go and check it out. Find out what all the hype's about, why he's compared to Adrian Peterson. It's up there right now. The other game I'm really excited for, I really am excited for OSU at Navy. I think this could be an upset. I'm calling it now. I think Navy eked this by a field goal, and it's dramatic as heck. Running that triple option, JT Barrett doesn't quite figure it out. They struggle with calls. They have false starts, things of that nature. Young team. I think Navy upsets Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but it definitely could. There's just so much more experience in that Navy team. And it's a game that's coming at the wrong time for OSU as well. You really wanted them to start out against an easy opponent so they could recover from the Braxton injury. Yeah, could happen.
No kidding. All right, then. We'll wrap this up here. It's been fun to do. I think we should do a college preview of the weekend every week.
Happy to do it.
All right, then, man. We'll speak to you next week.
Okay, cool. See you, Ollie.